Welcome to the Cloud version talks about the Isle again. So today I want to bring up kind of a common subject that's affected many of the YouTubers like Gaming Beaver, Mr. D-Bear, and well, I think the Beaver actually had the most direct one with his Deinosuchus. The ending to his, very popular Deinosuchus video was a larger Deinosuchus coming up, him having kind of a tense moment of apprehension about it, and then the Deinosuchus player biting him, getting the first hit off. He tries to run away, but the Deinosuchus player has better stamina than him and also has had all of the benefit of intentionally ambushing someone, and so kills this famous YouTuber, bringing an unceremonious end to his stream. And I want to take this opportunity to highlight this well, I don't know if it is even a problem, that this feature that the Isle community brings, and its positives and negatives. One of them is it's highly realistic, right? This idea that cannibalism is a feature of like crocodiles specifically and many apex predators. Lions eat their young and sharks and all of this stuff. But in the Isle, I think it comes across a little different, and I wanted to talk about what that means. I just had a morning in which I lost a 40% croc to two cannibal crocs working together. I got a super mix packed, like a super pack of one of each dinosaur fighting me in the plains on my Carnotaurus. That was like, I think, 80%. These are the things that don't have rules against them, and super packing is a different video. I'll probably make a separate video on that. But cannibalism specifically is realistic, but also could do with some gamification or an acknowledgement by the community that if cannibals are around and have no consequence to their activity, then that means that every species that you meet, you have to kind of treat as if they may be a cannibal. And what that means is if you're a young version of any dinosaur, you take a high risk in approaching a member of your own species, which is in some ways anti-group, right? And as a community, I think we need to decide how we feel about certain mechanics or ways of gamifying this acknowledgement that this is a video game. We are players who are a part of a community, right? A community that doesn't necessarily have to be positive, or rather a community that can be toxic, is vulnerable to being toxic. And a lot of the consequences of having cannibals in your game without a game mechanic that's set in the game, hard-coded to either discourage or punish them, is that it's kind of a lowest common denominator of assholeness on the server, which is if one person kills you, then you need to treat everyone as if they might also potentially kill you. And like, what's happening in the game isn't exactly that, right? Like, people learn that some people are assholes and other people aren't. But the ability of a group of animals that are specifically balanced to have pros and cons against each other, and all of that being wiped out by someone being your exact same species and having access to your exact same abilities except better, and the only saving grace of a young animal being its size, that it can hide, is almost inherently anti-community. So the scarring mechanic kind of helps with this, which is that if someone is like routinely cannibalizing a spawn point, then they, will take some damage over time and will eventually become weaker. I think that's great. I think that's fantastic. Hard-coded system into the game, that kind of challenges and shapes how we think of these mechanics, right? As like what could be possible in the Isle is how health works. What could be possible in the Isle is how stress works, right? You could get certain buffs or debuffs by exhibiting the player behavior that the community can agree that they want to see. And if you eat, someone of your own species, that could make you stressed out, right? It could be disturbing to you in some way. And that could have a variety of different effects. They already have sickness in the game from overeating. So I hope there's no crocs here. Last time I was here, there's a lot of crocs. Anyway. So, yeah, a lot of the, effects that we want to see can be hard-coded into the game if we just challenge our perceptions about what we think is, normal or reasonable or, not too crazy or liberal to bend and shape the game's mechanics by. And so, for example, this Terra, I had to restart because I was trying to explore the northwest side of the map, and 2 Terras decided to kill every single one of the Terras that they saw as cannibals. And that is realistic, right? That is totally normal. In the world, there are avian predators that get very territorial with each other. Just because they're the same species doesn't mean they're going to be friends. But in a social game that this is, there's 100 players on this server. If someone comes up to you and wants to be your friend, you're inherently giving away. You're inherently putting yourself at a disadvantage. First, you're giving away your position. You're letting someone know that you're there. To call someone, you alert them to your presence, eliminating the element of surprise. If they go straight at you and hit you first, you start off at a disadvantage, right? With the bleed mechanic especially, that means that your stamina is now affected, which means you cannot run away. Even if you're the exact same age as your attacker, you cannot run away as effectively. Bleed also helps with tracking, of course, which is how raptors and carnotauruses can deal with their prey. But there needs to be some acknowledgement that in order for you to be safe and win fights against your same species, you either have to be more of an asshole than the person attacking you, or just lose your dinosaur. And that isn't a fun game state to go into if you're interested in community, right? Which so many people who play the Isle, they want to group, they want to share, they want to talk on Discord, they want to be a family, right? This idea is fundamentally anti-cannibalistic, because when you approach someone, you either attack them first and then apologize and say, sorry, I just need to start off this engagement with an advantage just in case you were shitty. So you either have to go down to their level of shittiness to embody the thing that you despise so much, which is how abuse perpetuates itself, or you have to just throw up your hands and say, well, I could lose this dinosaur if this person decides to, or if this person is too hungry, right? And that is natural, yes, but maybe not preferable. Potentially that's one of the natural things that the game might want to think about editing out. And also, just because something is natural doesn't mean it's always good. And also, nature has solutions for these things, right? They have genetic instinct where mothers don't want to kill their own children, right? They'll kill other kids, but they'll try to leave their own kids alone, right? Nature has already found a solution to this problem of same species being able to perpetuate violence on each other, but having incentives not to. And they did that through hard-coded DNA instinct, right? And that even could be the name of a new mechanic, right? Instinct as a bar that you could either fill up or lose, and that could affect a variety of different stats or attributes that the game designers decide later could work. So that's just what I was thinking, right? This is a non-desirable game state to many of the population. I'd say a majority of the population. And there are some solutions that we could and should look at as to how to deal with it. And also to be honest with ourselves when we say that something is natural, it's not just this no caveat blanket statement. It's like it's natural with a lot of specifics and a lot of cases in which that doesn't work. Big things don't just ruthlessly murder young things. They don't get to completely, there are a lot of artificial things in the game, like spawn points, for example, that nature doesn't have. And yeah, that's just what I was thinking. Thank you so much for listening, and yeah, let me know if you have any ideas or comments as to how the community could address the inherent disadvantage of grouping or maybe potential defensive mechanisms against things that have your exact same stats. And I will see you guys later.